Realme seems to be going all out with this phone, the Realme GT 7 Pro. Of all the Snapdragon 8 Elites that I've covered so far, the GT 7 Pro is the most aggressively priced, yes, but Realme seems intent on making this phone more than just the cheapest Snapdragon 8 Elite. Now, right from this interesting back design to the aviation-grade aluminum frame, the whopping 6500 mAh silicon carbide battery, the rapid fast charger in the box, the solid IP rating with support for underwater photography, the eye-searingly bright display with the first time on a candy bar phone tech, there's a lot Realme has done here. Hell, the GT 7 Pro even has the best stability score I've seen on an 8 Elite, with the exception of that liquid metal toting active cooled Red Magic 10 Pro. Now, of course, given the aggressive price, there are gonna be some caveats, some corners cut. Now, in today's video, let's first get the unboxing out of the way and then take a detailed look at what Realme's done with their latest flagship, the GT 7 Pro. Now, if this is your first time here, or in case you just can't remember, my name's Ash, you're watching C4E Tech, and let's get started. So here's the box the GT 7 Pro comes in. It's nothing special, just your regular black box with big bold branding. I picked up the 12256Q, which happens to be the base. Let me go ahead and use the pull tab, peel the plastic off. Now, once you open up the box, the first thing you see is this black insert which contains some informational booklets, the SIM tool, and a soft TPU case. Next, we get to the GT 7 Pro. Removing it from its protective plastic. Now, this is the white variant. Realme also offers this phone in grey, and there's an orange. Personally, I think this orange is the best looking SKU this time. Realme says they took inspiration from the planet Mars for the color and the patterns here. Now, this camera array, they call the design the Space Viewport Deco. And I kinda like it. I like how the metal part slopes inwards. I like the chamfered edges. And I like the fact that it has an IR blaster built in. Now, the glass here to the back, it's got a matte finish and is quite resistant to fingerprints. Not just the glass, the metal frame too. And again, I like how it's got a deep reddish hue and is fingerprint resistant. Now, what do you guys think of this colorway? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate it? Leave a comment. Now, with the other versions, the back's glossy and more prone to picking up fingerprints, but the metal frame still got that matte finish. And by the way, this is aviation grade aluminum. Now, the display and the back, they both curve on all four sides. That said, they don't really meld into the frame of the device, so when you run your fingers over it, you kind of feel a clear separation of the back and the side and the display. That said, the GT 7 Pro, it's still relatively comfortable in hand for a phone this size. Talking about size, it's 8.5mm thick and weighs in at about 225 grams. Realme's gone for an IP68, IP69 rating for protection against the elements, and the display as well as the fingerprint scanner can both be used with wet hands. Now, that's because the fingerprint scanner is of the ultrasonic variety, takes just 4 presses to register a fingerprint, and it's very quick and responsive, unlocks at the slightest of touches. Now, honestly, what do you guys think? Do you think ultrasonic scanners should become standard on phones priced above a certain mark? If yes, what's the price point above which you think ultrasonic scanners must be included, must be a standard? Let me know. Now, despite IP ratings and wet touch, when a phone is underwater and if the display is on, it's not really usable. Now, Realme has done something interesting to circumvent that limitation and let us shoot underwater with this phone. You can either have this setup where the volume up key switches between the 3 camera sensors, the volume down key switches between the front and back cameras, touch on the entire screen is disabled except for the shutter button. Press it to take a picture, press and hold to shoot a video. Given you can't hear the shutter sound, there's this nice little counter to the side to show you how many pictures you've taken. Now, long pressing the power button, it lets you exit this mode. Alternatively, you can disable the touchscreen entirely and have the volume up key snap a picture, volume down key shoot a video, and again, long pressing the power key would help exit, after which the GT 7 Pro plays this tone to help remove water from the speakers. Now, the speakers, there are 2 of them positioned asymmetrically and they sound pretty good. Paired with the stellar 6.78-inch AMOLED panel, the GT 7 Pro is excellent for media consumption. Now, the display here, it is actually a highlight of the GT 7 Pro because unlike most other Chinese offerings, Realme's gone for a Samsung panel and they've used some tech we commonly only find on foldables. This panel is polarizer free. Instead, they are using DCT, which should increase the brightness and make the colors appear richer. And Realme claims a brightness peak of 6000 nits, but that's just the HDR claim. Of course, there is HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision support. In my testing, this panel output about 650 nits under manual mode. Not too impressive, right? But then there's an extra brightness toggle. Once you flip that on, then you'd be able to crank the brightness all the way up to around 1100 nits. Now that's not it. Under auto mode, this panel outputs an eye-searing 2350 nits, so it's extremely bright. On the flip side, under low light, there's 2160Hz high-frequency PWM dimming for those sensitive to OLED flicker. The Gorilla Glass 7i covered display here, it's got a 1.5K resolution, giving it a 450 pixels per inch pixel density, so quite sharp. It's also got a 120Hz refresh, so quite smooth. And then there's 80 LTPO tech to vary that refresh as needed, so quite efficient. Not that it needs to be, given there is a whopping 6500 mAh silicon carbide battery on the inside. Now, like iQOO, Realme also seems to have issues getting the necessary certification to launch this phone as is in India. So Indian units will have a 5800 mAh battery instead. Bummer. Anyways, guys, I kind of got carried away. So getting back to the box, there's a 120 watt SuperVOOC charger along with a USB Type-A to Type-C cable with white accents. Using this charger, you can get that 6500 mAh battery to 50% in just 13 minutes and a full charge in 35. Very impressive. There is no wireless charging though. Now the other highlight for this phone is the flagship Snapdragon 8 Elite powering it. The 8 Elite with its custom Orion cores seems to be a major step up in both power as well as efficiency compared to the 8 Gen 3. Now to make those numbers seem too impressive, it's been pushed a lot, meaning we've been seeing brands struggle with managing thermals and or stability scores. Realme, in fact, has handled the throttling situation quite well. Look at this. See how the stability is about 70%, meaning after 20 minutes of continuously pushing the GPU, the GT7 Pros only lost 30% of its peak performance. That said, look closer. Realme is maxing out at about 6100 points on this test. Now other 8 Elites that we've seen, they typically max out at around 6700. Again, ignore the liquid metal cooled beast, that's the Red Magic 10 Pro. By the way, if you want to know more about that phone, I'll leave a card to it here. Now the lowest loop with the GT7 Pro is a reasonable 4200 points, which is way above what we're seeing with other phones. So yes, Realme has been a little conservative. They've not pushed the SoC as much as they could have, but that also means the drops are not quite as severe. So what do you think about this approach? Let me know in the comments below. Now here's a twist on that take. I don't think Realme really had any choice here. I don't think they could have pushed that SoC anymore, because even at this point, the GT7 Pro was hitting a toasty 54 degrees on the screen and 52 degrees to the back. So yes, stability is up, but so's the heat. But again, guys, like I've been saying in pretty much every 8 Elite video, the 8 Elite is overkill and there's almost no native Android game that's gonna need the SoC push that much all the time. And with regular day-to-day use, I didn't really experience the phone getting hot. Now talking about gaming, frame interpolation and super resolution options are available for select games. And sadly, Realme UI, like ColorOS, does frame cap most games. I'm not a mobile gamer, so full credit to GSM Arena, that's where I got this information from. The 8 Elite here, it's paired with 12 or 16 gigs of LPDDR 5X RAM and 256, 512 gigs or a terabyte of UFS 4.0 storage. The 1TB SKU, I guess, is exclusive to China. On the software side of things, we have Realme UI 6 built atop Android 15, and Realme does promise 3 years of Android version updates along with 4 years of security patches for this phone. Now Realme UI, these days it's pretty much ColorOS, so most of the features that we saw on the Find X8 Pro have made their way over here too. The animations are super smooth, the control center's changed, and there's a whole bunch of AI related functions thrown in. There's AI Eraser, which lets you remove subjects from an image after you've taken the shot. It's gotten much faster now. There's AI Ultra Clarity for upscaling and AI Unblur, which is self-explanatory. Now the global firmware, it's expected to come with some sketch-to-image functionality that I wasn't able to test since it's not on my Chinese unit. So now let's talk optics. Now guys, this phone is very aggressively priced. So corners need to be cut somewhere. And like iQOO, Realme has also chosen to cut corners with the cameras. In fact, they've downgraded the camera sensors from the GT5 Pro. I mentioned the GT5 Pro since we didn't really have a GT6 Pro. The primary here is Sony's IMX906, a 1x1.56 inch sensor that's paired with an optically stabilized f1.8 lens. It does a very good job under good light, excellent detail, great dynamic range. The white balance was usually accurate, and the saturation too, I didn't face any weird boosting of colors. Under low light, still did a fair job, mostly clean, reasonably preserved highlights, the processing was good, Yes, it's not as good as what you'd get with a Find X8 Pro or a Vivo X200 Pro, but it's still pretty solid overall. Now, Realme also provides that 3-second live photo option, 1.5 seconds of footage before and after the shutter's been pressed. For video, the GT7 Pro maxes out at 8K 24fps, which was fine with reasonable stability. I was actually quite impressed with the 4K 60 here. Very detailed and stable, and you can even switch to the telephoto camera when you're using it. And out of curiosity, I continued zooming, and the digital zoom wasn't too bad either. Weirdly, there was no option to shoot video via the ultrawide, though GSM Arena says you can shoot 1080-30 with it on global firmware. Talking about the ultrawide, that remains unchanged from the GT5 Pro, 8 megapixels IMX355. It's okay, gets the job done I suppose. Do know that the focus is fixed, so you can't shoot macros here. Next, we have another Sony sensor, 50 megapixels IMX882. This is a 1x1.95 inch sensor paired with an optically stabilized f2.65 lens. This allows for 3x telephoto shots. Even at 6x, the results were fine. Now, Realme allows for a whole lot of digital zoom, and when you go past that 60x mark, and that's where you run into AI telescope zoom. This uses AI to clean up the images and get you kinda sorta usable 60x shots. I like the implementation. For selfies, Realme seems to have gone all Sony this time, an IMX480, and it does a fair job for stills, portraits. Now, just about when I was almost happy that most brands this year offered 4K via selfie camera, here's Realme maxing out at 1080-60. And the footage is mid, not too detailed, a bit of over-sharpening, but reasonably stable. Now in China, this phone starts at 3699 RMB, which converts to about $510 US or 43,000 Indian rupees. Now of course, when it goes global, the pricing is going to change. Now in India, given the battery downgrade, 50,000, maybe 55 at best could be considered aggressive. But anything more, I actually saw some leaks saying the rumored price is 65 to 70,000. I don't know what they are smoking because honest to God, I like this phone and everything. I like what they've done. I like the fact that it's not just the cheapest 8 Elite. But given the camera downgrade, given the heating issues, I don't think this phone should be priced above 55,000 rupees. That's just me. By the time this video goes live, maybe you know the price, maybe you have more information on it. If you do, let me know what you think about the price in the comments below. And what do you think is a fair price for this? Would you be interested in buying it at 55,000? Or do you think, hey, I like it, I'd pay 70,000 for it? Let me know whatever you think in the comments. And thanks for watching. Ash out.